Alright, so today we're going to be web scraping with Python. We're going to be extracting an HTML table from each of these websites here. Each of these links has an HTML table and it looks like this, and basically it has all the fights from that event. Um, so first I'm going to show you how to do one, like this table by itself, and then I'm going to show you how to get all these links and then go through each of those and extract the table from those. So first things first, we'll start with this first link here. And basically what we want to do is find the class of the table. So we'll go ahead and inspect, and we will find the class right here. So as we see, the element is table, and here's the class. So before we copy that, a little trick is if you hit Windows key V as in Victor, if you don't already have it enabled, it'll ask you, do you want to enable it? And basically when I copy things here, um, I'll have a history instead of just having the last thing I copied in my clipboard. So let's go ahead and copy this. And let's also copy the link because we're going to need that to send a request to it. So if I hit Windows key V again, now you'll see I'll have these last two things I copied. So if we go into Python, the first thing we want to do is import our libraries. So we're going to need three at the minimum. We're going to need request. We're going to need beautiful soup. And we're going to need pandas. So if you don't know, requests allow you to um, send a request to a website. Beautiful Soup will grab the HTML or whatever data you're looking for, and then Pandas will allow you to format that into a file of your choice. Most commonly for tables, you would use like a CSV or an Excel file. All right, so then from there, we need to tell it, okay, what site do I want to connect to? Okay, well, we've copied the URL. Make sure there's quotes around it. And then we want to send a response with requests, and we want to get the URL. Whoops, whoops. Yep. And then we want to we want to do a soup request. So soup, beautiful soup, and then response.text. And then we want the HTML parser because we want it to parse or get the HTML elements that we're going to tell it to get. All right. So from here, this is where the table comes in. So table equals soup, and then tell it to find. Find what? What is the element we're looking for? Table. What is the class? And then here's the class. And then we want it to print the table. So let's see what that gives us. Good. So it's printed all of this. It looks like fight data. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. We know that works, so we don't need print anymore. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a data array that's empty because now we're going to append the data from the table to it. So we're going to do data append. Then we're going to tell it what are we doing to it. How are we appending it? Well, we want to tell pandas to read the HTML of the table. We don't want it as HTML. We want it as a string. What are we getting it from? The table. And then we're starting at 0. And then we want to take data and make that into a final data frame. So we'll say data frame equals pd.concatenate the data array and ignore the index to true. And then we want to print the data frame. Let's see if that works. And here it is formatted. Somewhat nice table. So now what we want, well, you could want, is to now take this data frame and put that into a CSV file. So again, we can remove print, we know it works. And we can say df dot to CSV, and then what is the file name? So let's say test scrape dot CSV. Put quotes around it, and then we'll say index is false this time. We don't want it indexed. And then after we run this, we'll see a little file pop up over here with this data. So if we open this, here's our file. So that's how we get that one link's worth of data. But now let's say you don't want just one table. You want to go through all these links and get the table from each of those. Okay, well, here's what we're going to have to do. We'll need this URL, and then we're going to need to get the ahref element. So if we click here, all of these have a element and then an href property with this class. So we're going to need that. So we want to copy this class. Actually, first thing we want to do is get the row data, because we're going to tell it to go through each row and grab the link. So we need the row as well. So let's get the row class. Edit HTML. Let's copy this. And now we also want this class as well. So now I have the URL copied, the row class, and the A element with the href class copied to my clipboard. So now let's go back over here. And now we're going to change this URL to the new one we just copied, all. And in this case, we don't want table. We'll keep that later, but now we need the row. So the row will be row equals soup dot find all, and it'll be class equals, and then the row. Actually, sorry, this is going to be plural rows because we're going to iterate through each one. So then we're going to say for each row, what do we want to do? We want to find the links, right? So links equals row.find all class, and this is the one for the A element with the link. And then now we have to go through each link and grab the href property. So let's print link href. So go ahead, I'm going to comment this out, and you can comment by highlighting what you want and then control/. And I want to run this. So now it'll go through and it should print me the URL for each one. Let's see if that works. Okay. So it went through this site, and now it's printed me all these different URLs. Good, that's what we wanted it to do. So we know that works. Now we need to make a list of URLs and add each of these to it. So we'll make um, a blank array, URLs equals blank. And then instead of print, we'll just say URLs dot append. So then instead of printing each individual link, we're going to print the master URLs list. See if that works. Okay, now it's in one array or list. Perfect. So now that we have that, now we want to tell it for URL in URLs, what do we want it to do? Well, we have to send an individual response to each one. So it'll be the same thing as we did up there. URL soup equals beautiful soup again. Same thing. We want a response and we want it as a text using the HTML.parser. And then the table is going to be, so we can uncomment this. The table is going to be the same, but we need to indent it to make it underneath this for each loop. And then we need to move this out of the way. We don't want this in the for each loop. We actually want it before the loop so it knows what it's appending to. And then the last thing that needs to be in the loop is the data append, because that's the last action that happens in that loop. So these will act the same. After data is appended for each table, we'll take that master array, append it, or I'm sorry, create a data frame with it, and then take that data frame and put it into a CSV. So before that, we'll just say we want to print the data frame. We want to see if it actually works. Okay. So from the top, it's going to go to that main URL with all the links. It's going to get the information. It's going to find each row, and then each row it's going to grab the href property and get that and put that into the URL list. And then we make a blank data array because we're going to append to it every time. And then for each URL in that master list, we're going to get the request, get the HTML, get that table, because for each link the table is the same. And then get the data and append to the data array. Take the data array, put it into a data frame, print the data frame to make sure we have what we want, and then export the data frame to a file that we can look at. So let me go ahead and, this is the old one, delete that. So let's see if we get what we want. And if you want to see a percentage of, because it's going to take a while, you can use TQDM. So I'm going to go ahead and import TQDM as, no, from TQDM, import TQDM. And then for each URL, and I think you put it here, TQDM, and then have that in parentheses. It's going to show a progress bar. So let's see. 0%. All right, so while that's running, I'm going to pause the video and we'll we'll pick it up after it's done. All right, so we're back and it's done. So our progress bar is now 100% and we see our file over here. So if we click it, we'll see all the data. And it says there's 6,962 rows. So this isn't the greatest viewer here, so we're going to upload it to Google Sheets and take a look at it there. Alright, so here's what the data looks like. It's not the prettiest because we didn't do any type of formatting. We just told Python to take the table from each of those links, combine them into one data frame, and export it. So there's no formatting. So some of these aren't going to look the prettiest. So you could either tell Python to do that, or you can do it yourself after the export. So it's up to you. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Appreciate you.